They were afraid of that because they were under Roman control. Okay, so they didn't want to discipline or punish a Roman for fear of um, the Roman emperor or whatever, um, which at that time was Caesar, that he would have punished them for punishing a Roman, because they were still under Roman rule. All right, so now he's here with King Agrippa and another gentleman by the name of Festus, and so he tells his story about how he was on the road to Damascus, and this bright light, you know, shone down upon him, and it blinded him. Everybody saw the light, but only he heard the voice, and it was the voice of Jesus asking him, Saul, Saul, why do you um, persecute me? And so he he immediately knew who that was, so to speak. Well, he asked who it was, and Jesus told him who it was. And Paul turned over a new leaf from that time, and he went on, and Ananias, uh, allowed him to see again. And from that point on, Paul went from someone that was uh, persecuting Christians to someone that was preaching the gospel. All right. So he tells them about this story. And of course, Festus says, well, you said he's out of his mind. Let's see, how did he say it? While Paul was saying this in his defense, Festus said in a loud voice, Paul, you are out of your mind. Your great learning is driving you mad. Paul said, I am not out of my mind, most excellent Festus, but I utter words of sober truth. For the king knows about these matters, and I speak to him also with confidence, since I am persuaded that none of these things escape his notice, for has not been done in a corner. All right. Now something happens with King Agrippa. He says to Paul, in a short time you will persuade me to become a Christian. And Paul makes a statement, I wish to God that I would wish to God that whether in a short or long time, not only you, but also all who hear me this day might become such as I am, except for these chains, because he was chained up. All right. So, um, do we see anything here? Uh, does it tell us anything? What does it tell you? This particular passage of scripture. What do you see? We see Paul being arrested. Um, we see Paul um, speaking about his experience, speaking about his belief, and not changing his story just because now the king is present. Well, now they've arrested him, or they have him in chains. He doesn't change his story, does he? And what happens?
Well, I think that one of the things that made him ask him was he mad was that you're telling this testimony about your encounter on the Damascus Road with like excitement. Man, you can hear it change, man. But there ain't no dampening of his excitement. Still, and telling people with passion about why they should believe.
Yeah. If you go back and read a couple of chapters before that, he actually tells his story to several different um groups. So he didn't change the story. He's testifying to each and every one the same story. But then what happens? What does the king say to him? Not the one that said he's out of his mind, but the other one said he almost made him a Christian. Just listening to you makes me, almost persuade me to be a Christian. What do we gather from that? Do we gather anything from that? Should we gather anything from that?
That a true testimony that's connected with actual experience and emotion that's heartfelt, that it actually does move other people. It's not just you, I'm just gonna tell this story that I had. No, people can tell when you're sharing something that got depth to.
Mm, mm. So Paul was kind of speaking from the heart, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Kind of speaking from the heart. Y'all ever had someone tell you something or explain something to you, something that they know, but they don't really feel it? Does it come across a little different? No. Yeah. Most of the time it does. You know, you know, I'm not a salesperson, right? But I guess I could sell something if I believed in it. You know, if I was famous, I'd be on a commercial. You could tell whether or not I wear Brute 33 cologne or not, because I probably I couldn't sell it. You could tell I was just making it up. Brute 33, I took y'all back with that, then. But 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 if I believe in something, I can tell it. I can tell the story, so to speak. And I think it comes across different. There's a genuineness there. But if it's just something that I just think I know or that I read somewhere, but I don't really believe it, there's a little difference there. I think there's a little difference. So I think Paul was speaking in that way, and in such a way that now Festus, it didn't touch him, but it did touch King Agrippa. Did touch King Agrippa. Does Agrippa remind you of anything or anybody or of people today at all? With him saying that, he almost, what do people sometimes say when you tell them something or you explain something to them? They kind of, in their mind, they have the intellect that, okay, this happens, and this is good. But yet they're like, I, I go to church next week, right? You probably talk to people at work or maybe even family members or friends, and they be like, yeah, 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 yeah. I need to get back in there. I need to get back, you know. I'll go next week. It's always next week. Or I go Easter. Mother's Day coming up. I go for Mother's Day or whatever it is, right? So it's like they have the intellect to know what is right, and they have an understanding. They know who God is and believe in Him fully, but they're just not ready to make that commitment, are they? Why is that? I mean, I know y'all don't know because y'all have made the commitment, right? Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. So the day before you made the commitment, what was your reasoning?
Man, it could be a lot of different things, whether it's, the idea like we talked about before, the stronghold, or it could be like you said, I don't have an intellectual defense for what you're saying, because everything you say, yeah, it makes sense, yeah. But there's just something
Holding them back,
that's
something.
holding them back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anything about King Agrippa now, he was, like I said, now this is a land that is under Roman rule, Roman control. Now he's a king. All right. Now, if he starts worshiping God and Jesus at this point, Paul's telling him about Jesus. So if he starts worshiping him as the true king, he may be risking, yeah, yeah, he's risking his crown. He may be risking the head that his crown was sitting on too. I mean, so he probably had a little peer pressure there. Do you think some people shy away from committing due to peer pressure or how they think people will perceive them? I don't know. What do you think? Some people do, maybe.
I think for some people, it's definitely like a political decision. You know, I feel what I feel in my heart about what you shared with me, but then I'm also weighing what I think. If I make a move that's different than what I've been making or what everybody expects me to make, or what the fallout would be.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah,
all of a sudden on Sunday I don't show up to church, remember,
yeah. And it could be like I said, like this was a king, so he had a high position, right? He was a a Jewish king. How many of us, not us per se, but people that you may know, have these high positions or whatever, positions of authority on our job or whatever, and we don't want to speak about God, you know, gotta separate that, you know, you know. How many of you just in your actions don't show that you're a disciple? There's a way to do business, there's a way to do, you know, you know, most things that yeah, I guess that we all do on jobs. But how many of you compromise, your salvation because of, well, this is the practice, it's just the way we do things, you know? And I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it could be, like I said, I guess if I was a salesman, how many of you swindle people when you're selling stuff or tell an untruth? Oh yeah, this car. Oh yeah. It was designed to rattle like that, right? Right. You know, little, just a little half truth. I didn't really lie to him. So and how many of you are embarrassed to do the right thing in front of people? It could be I don't know, could be a matter of personnel matter. You don't show someone grace. Someone, I don't know, that has a sick child, and you're like, well, I'm gonna dock your pay for that, you know, or whatever. Tell you what, for that, since you can't come in today, you just stay home tomorrow too. Is that how we treat people? There's some supervisors that do things such as that, right? They don't show people grace, um, you know, as we should, right? So that's kind of something I see in this same passage, um, you know. But Paul does make that personal appeal to them. He's not afraid to say what his experience was. He's not afraid to to convince them that he's not crazy, he's not mad or whatever, and lost his mind. And he's willing to teach them and preach to them the gospel. And that's the way we need to be. If we're disciples, that's what we should be doing. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're supposed to be working, you're supposed to be working. Do your job. But if you maybe on a break or whatever, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think so. Nothing wrong with, if there's someone willing to hear it there or whatever, then, say what there is to say. But to me, you speak to people louder with your actions than with actual words. And I think that's the thing that they see more than anything. At least that's where. Does anyone ever? Is there anything that you experience? Anything that you show um, people who you are? Does anyone have any examples of that? Of how they may have done that? Angela, you can't tell us
Hey,
any of your stuff. Could you be going against the rules now? You can't. You can't. You can't. Anyone? Has anyone showed any grace to anyone where or at any time?
I've had several examples on my job when I was working, and when you see that someone's in need and you try to help them, and when you put forth the effort to help them, then you're told stuff like, "Oh, you'll feed a snake," "Oh, you let them trick you into doing this, doing that," and I just see it as I saw that they needed help, and I did what I could to help them. And I
Yeah.
had several examples of that on my job when I was working.
Yeah. And isn't that funny now? People that have nothing to do with what you was doing gonna sit there and talk you out of doing it. Don't be no fool now. Don't be no fool. You don't need to do that extra. You don't need to help them. That's something people. People try to talk you out of being good. Try to talk you out of being good.
There's something else too to get Kobe involved. The lady that I invited to church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kobe tried to tell me that the lady wasn't homeless. He said, Grandma B, she's too well kept. Look at her. She's not homeless. I said, well, Kobe, I'm going by what she said. She said she was homeless. I'm going to fix her some need, okay? But we did find out she wasn't homeless.
Hmm.
The one that kept saying I live around it, or I'm staying.
Around the corner over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Kobe and I got smart. When she came over, it was dark one night, and we said, well, let us take you back down there. Let us take you back down there to the corner where you live. It's too dark for you to be walking. So Kobe and I took it in. And she got in and she said, well, put me out right here. And it was like 2 houses down from where she was going. She said, I have to go through the alley to go to where I sleep. So we put her out right there. And then we cruised along and I said, well, where do you sleep? She said, 2 houses down there. So we saw 2 young girls standing outside the 2 houses down below her.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked, did they know? I'm not gonna say her name.
Yeah.
We asked, did they know her? And she said, yes, ma'am, that's my auntie. You looking for her? You want me to tell her to come outside? So a lady came to the door and said, who are you looking for? I said, I'm just trying to make sure the lady's okay that I dropped off. She said, oh, that's my sister. Yeah, she's all right.
Hmm.
So we found out. Right, so I say, well, she's living with somebody, so I'm still gonna consider her.
She don't have her
She thinks
own
she's
home.
homeless, she's got not, but she told her she was homeless.
But that's what they call homeless now. If
Okay.
you don't have your own place in your own name, you consider homeless.
Yeah, but they homeless people ain't coming trying to get stuff from other people when they got
That's what they
somewhere.
consider homeless now.
They ain't coming to the church trying to get money from the church. Yeah,
Everything, whatever she could get.
yeah. That's something different. Yeah, we call them homeless too. That's cool. You don't have an address. But they ain't coming up here trying to bamboozle nobody.
All right. All right. But the way we live our life should be influencing people.
Still here.
Yeah, yeah. And you still
Still
do.
comes by her.
Still do the right thing. Still do the right thing. I mean, does she eat?
Yeah.
Well, then she must have been hungry.
You'll eat too.
Yeah, I eat too, even when I'm not hungry. So I don't know when I'm gonna get my next meal.
Said, I'll be the snake.
What's that?
I said, somebody give me
Okay.
something, you gonna eat it too.
uh-huh. But yeah, but the way we live our lives, the way we carry ourselves, the things that we say, the things we do, um, you know, that she sought you out, so to speak, for some reason. She probably saw you. You didn't know you didn't know that she had seen you, but she probably had, had well, she probably, but I'm thinking she saw you as a person that would be helpful.
I said, do you ever ask any of the other neighbors for help? She said, well, they won't come to their door. Something like that.
Well, but she
Yeah.
still did the right thing, and we still did the right thing. When she came to church, we welcomed her to church.
Right.
We
Yeah.
Right by
offered,
her.
Yeah.
we showed her grace, because it's not our place to judge,
Right.
So, I mean, if she's trying to use somebody, that's on her. It's on us to try to do the right thing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm, yeah. And we had some programs for her. We had done some research, and, but she had to have, we needed some more information from her. But yeah, but yeah, but she came to you for some reason. Maybe she could see it in you just by, maybe a smile. You know, she may have seen somebody else in this room, and they may have frowned. but she saw you and you smiled, so you look friendly, you look helpful, more than likely. You looked approachable. We've talked about that, how many times people walk in the room looking all mean, and then nobody want to speak to them, or some people walk in with a smile on their face, right? They be hiding you over there. I won't even talk about you. but 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 we should resemble who we follow, right? And so we need to be approachable. And yeah, at times we're gonna get people probably that are gonna try to misuse us. We still got to be smart, in what we do. And you did the right thing. I mean, you brought, like she said, you brought her here to church. You know, so so that's good. That's good. That's good. All right. So disciples. We have to have identity, right? So we know who we are. We should be persuasive in what we do. We should our actions, our words should persuade others to want to be Christian as well. Just like King Agrippa, you almost got me want to be a Christian. Right? But there's also something else that we should expect as disciples. Let's turn to First Peter chapter 4. Uh, Verses 12 through 16. Can someone read that, please?
Surprised that the fiery ordeal among you which comes upon you for your testing, because some strange thing were happening to you. But to the degree that you share the sufferings of Christ, keep on rejoicing, so that also at the revelation of his glory you may rejoice with exultation. If you are reviled for the name of Christ, you are blessed because the spirit of glory and of God rests on you. He said 14.
Through 16.
Make sure that none of you suffers as a murderer or thief or evildoer or a troublesome meddler. But if anyone suffers as a Christian, he is not to be ashamed, but is to glorify God in this name.
All right. All right. What is that saying? What are y'all hearing here? What are y'all understanding from that passage? Do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal among you, which comes upon you for your testing, as though some strange thing were happening to you. What does that mean? What does that mean, Helen? She started to say something. I saw she looked up finna say it. You did. What does that mean? Do not be surprised at that is fiery, right? How do you pronounce it? Fiery ordeal among you, which comes upon you for your testing, as though some strange thing were happening to you. What's that say? What's just that verse? What's that verse say?
Saying as a Christian, you're gonna go through some stuff. Some stuff is definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
And other people pretty much are gonna look at how you react to it.
That's right. So don't be surprised, right? Don't be surprised. But to the degree that you share the sufferings of Christ, keep on rejoicing, so that also at the revelation of his glory you may rejoice with exultation. So you should rejoice in when those things happen to you. How many of us do that? Give me an example of something, a fiery ordeal that you have rejoiced in. You know, and it could be something. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna go to her. Go ahead.
Right, so when I had back surgery, that first time that they make you get up and walk, like that pain is like, I don't think I'll be able to do it. But at the same time, I'm rejoicing that I can even walk because during the surgery I could have been paralyzed. So while it was pain, it still was rejoicing. Rejoicement ain't a word, is it?
Rejoicement. You make it a word you want to. Rejoicement. Hey, you communicated. We understood what you're saying. All right. Well, let's say like when you help someone and someone comes and they talk about you know, such Sister Vivian. Not that they were talking about you, but they said you'll feed a snake, won't you, or something? What is it? Snakes that eat too. But but um, you know, it may hurt your status. You know, people may look at you a little different. You know, they may look down on you because you did something good. Ma'am, that's a word, okay? So it is a word, y'all. She didn't know it was. She just made it up. But
Rejoicement.
rejoicement. All right. All right. But that could be some, you know, that's not a fiery ordeal, I get it. But it could be, you know, your stature among, you know, your co co-workers or whatever. You know, that could be different, or among your family members. You know, people could look at you a little differently, you know. Or it could be something to where people avoid being around you, you know, because you know you always talking about God and stuff. I'm tired of hearing all that. This thing, you know, they walking the other way. You know, they ostracize you. Could be. I don't know. Could be people, you know, I mean, I don't know this ever happened, but people may could, let's say you're up for a promotion and they may say, well, I better not hire this person. You know, they talk about God all the time on the job. You know, it's, you know, we'll choose this person over here. You know, they may offend somebody or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Just, but it could be things that you go through. Um, you know, and of course, like you said, surgeries, your medical issues. You know, your car breaks down on the side of the road when it's 100 degrees outside and the gnats out, Joe, that we talked about earlier. You know, and you know your car breaks down, or you or you get a flat tire. Well, I can fix that flat tire, no problem. Then you get the spare, and the spare's flat. You ain't used the thing in years, right? That spare is the one tire that usually it'll stay up. Now, a regular tire, if you don't drive, that tire just goes flat on its own, doesn't it? But a spare could be sitting up under there for years, and that joke could be tight when you take it down. Well, I don't know how they do that, but I don't know why they didn't do regular. I guess regular tires wouldn't drive as safe. I guess if they had that kind of pressure. But anyway, but yeah, these things happen. These things happen to you. You know, you lose out on opportunities. Um, you know, but what does it say? Okay, so you're gonna suffer. You know, so okay, so now we expect them to suffer. So what do? We just take it. Is that what we should do? What did other verses say?
Rejoicement, like she said.
Rejoicement. Rejoicement. So if you are reviled for the name of Christ, you are blessed. So let's think about this as a blessing because the spirit of glory and of God rests on you. Now make sure that you don't suffer as a murderer or thief or evildoer or troublesome meddler. Ain't anybody here troublesome meddlers, are they? But if anyone suffers as a Christian, he is not to be ashamed, but is to glorify God in his name. So if you're to suffer as a Christian, so this is something you're doing that Christ, you know, that's Christ like things that God wants you to do. And if you suffer because of that, saying you should not be ashamed. but is to glorify God in this name. And it goes on to say, for it is time for judgment to begin with the household of God. And if it begins with us first, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God? And if it is with difficulty that the righteous is saved, what will become of the godless man and the sinner? Therefore, those who also suffer according to the will of God shall entrust their souls to a faithful Creator in doing what is right. All right, so even though you suffer, you continue on, right? And you entrust your soul to a faithful Creator. That even though, many times we let things get to us because they're not, our world isn't perfect, and so, but we need to trust or entrust that our souls, entrust our souls to a faithful Creator, and He's going to do what's right. He's going to do what's right. So, what does suffering? What does suffering mean? I mean, I know what it means, but I guess what what's a connection for suffering? Is there any connection? Why do you think we must suffer if we're Christians? What's that? I heard something back there.
Christ suffered for
That's
us.
right. Christ suffered. That's right. Christ suffered. He suffered for us. I've got a hand here.
Because pain is what molds people.
Say that again.
Pain is what molds people. Mold.
Molds people. What do you mean?
Pain is a motivator. If I put my hand on a hot stove, am I not obligated to take it off because of how hot it is because of the pain? In the same way, there's some experiences that we would never understand without experiencing the pain that comes with it.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Let's go back to Paul. Let's go back to Paul when he was in chains, right? He had been captured. Um, People had been uh plotting to kill him, and then he was captured and put in jail. And of course, we know that while he was in jail, he wrote a lot of letters, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Wonder what kind of letter he write to us today. But he wrote a lot of letters, but he didn't, you know, he didn't stop his mission because he had been arrested or he had been put in chains or whatever. You know, he just felt like that was part of it, right? That's part of it. So our suffering is part of it. And as you say, Christ suffered. So we're suffering along with Christ. Got a hand right there.
Romans 8:17 says, and the children heirs, also heirs of God, and fellow heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with him, so that we may also be glorified with him.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We suffer with him so that we can be glorified with him.
I was thinking about Romans 5:3, where it says that we not only exult in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance, and perseverance, proven character, and proven character, hope.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that the part of the suffering, what it's really doing is it's shaping. It's helping us really like form those things that you say that you have faith in, while you going through this suffering and trusting. It says interest is that you putting your complete belief in that, hey, I don't know what's going on or why it's happening, but I'm gonna just go with it. I'm not gonna abandon what I believe and what I say that I have faith in, and I just see it through to the other side. And because you did that, when the next time that something comes up that's uncomfortable and stressful, you've got that other experience that you got. Now that's in your back pocket. The headache. I've had something stressful and troubling that didn't instantly get solved.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you love something, what are you going to do for it? You're going to sacrifice, right? You're willing to work. Willing to work. It's not all going to be easy. How many of you know of a person? How many of you was involved in, I don't know, in an organization or in some type of initiative, and it was a group of people that started, and once it started getting hard, they started dropping off. Some of them didn't even wait for it to get hard. They just didn't, it just took a little time. They went, I ain't got that kind of time. I don't want to put no time into it. You know, they don't want to work. Don't want to work at it. Don't want to put a little bit of extra into it. Many people are like that, right? And many of us are like that. It depends on what it is, right? You know, but we give up on things, quite easy. Many of us do. Um, but anything that's worth having is worth working for, isn't it? So if we want to get to the kingdom, it's worth a little bit of sacrifice on our part. It's worth a little bit of sacrifice on our part. Um, so when you suffer, you know, have you ever heard people say, the devil's after you or whatever, and it's like, um, um, you know, the ones that's already on his team, he don't mess with them. That's just, but he's going after those that aren't on his team already, right? So, so it's kind of like that, so to speak. I guess you could say that it's a badge of honor to suffer. You must be doing something right. Must be doing something right. But how many of us was that? Sometimes must be doing something right. But how many of us look at it that way? How many of us look at it that way? We usually, when something kind of bad happens to us, we immediately ask God, why? Why did you allow this to happen? Why did this happen? You know. So, like I said, take it as a badge of honor, as a badge of honor. All right. So, as disciples, all of this is the introduction, y'all, to discipleship. But so, as disciples, there's a certain identity we should have, right? People should, you know, people call people Christians that follow Christ. But as we said, we are disciples, so we're followers of Christ and his word, the commandments of God. So people should be able to recognize us from the things that we do, the things that we say. We should um, have a testimony. We should be persuasive in the things that we do and say, and make others want to join us, and be Christians as well. But we should also expect some suffering. We should also expect some suffering and understand that it is actually an honor and not a shame to suffer. So, um, what do y'all think the world, how do you think the world views Christians and disciples today? If you were to talk to someone that's not really in the church, they may go every now and then, but they're not really in the church. What do you think their view of discipleship or Christian discipleship is? Not those that are around you, because I know they know exactly what it is, because they see y'all every day, so they know, you know, how great it is. But just the average person, what do you think they see? What do you think if someone were to ask them about, do you know any Christians? What do you think they would say as far as what they see Christians, or what they see in Christians, what they see them doing, what they see them saying, their opinion of them.
I think that uh, a lot of what you hear is a lot of skepticism, just based on the fact that, you know, when you talk about the discipleship and you talk about people saying that they're Christian as a continuation of the word discipleship, they look at it as a lot of people want to lay claim to being a Christian. But when it comes time to actually suffer and to sacrifice, that you claim a Christian, then you really ain't gave up anything.
Mhm. Okay,
Everything,
so the person that is not a Christian, right? So they don't really know you're supposed to suffer. They don't, they don't probably don't know all these things. Just what would they think of? What do they just think of Christians in general? Now, I know you're heading there,
yeah.
but what do they think of Christians in general? If someone were to ask them, what what would they say that they see in Christians or in disciples? If someone were to describe it, like I said, not people that describe y'all, because they're gonna describe y'all as just close to perfect as you can get. But but how would just the average person describe the average Christian?
I think that what I was basically going to is that I think that they look at just what little bit of book they might have read or heard
Hmm.
that it don't line up as hypocritical.
Hmm. Give me some examples of what they're seeing.
Well, let's say I deal with some financial stuff. So let's say you got a business and you selling a product. And instead of you selling this product for what it is, hey, this is what it is, this is what it's good for, this is, buy what I sell it. You'll take, stuff like taking the same product and making three different labels for it. And you selling all of them at a different price point, but you're gonna persuade somebody that the most expensive one is better than the cheaper one when they're all the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Misleading people in any kind of way. Um, you know, I mean, I don't know. You have these televangelists on TV. What do they, what are they known for? What do you, lock the doors until I raise how much money he had to get? 130,000, whatever it was he had to get. You know, you know.
They said that was taken out of context.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it was taken out of context. Lock the doors until I get my money. Things such as that. They see these things, right?
Wasn't his money, that was the Lord.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Of course, of course, of course. I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure. You know, they see. I don't know. They see politicians. You know, use. I say they use God. You know. Taking pictures in front of the church. So they say, oh, yeah, I'm a Christian. But then their views of their policies are not Christ-like at all, right? You know, um, they see somebody pull out in front of you right there at the corner. You shoot them a bird, and then you pull on into the parking lot here at the church on your way here, or you just left here. You just got a little bit. You just got a little bit of of religion talk to you, and you pull out and get to the corner right there and shoot the bird at somebody. You know, you know. But that's what people are seeing, right? That's what people are hearing. They're hearing these things. They're seeing these things. They see the singers, you know, that are singing, gospel music, they're, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I don't know. I don't know. But they just so, I don't know. They dress so differently than back in the day. You see them dancing and boogieing down on stage or whatever. I know they're entertainers. Okay, I get it. And they're not in worship. I get that. I get that. So, you know, but but to the outside world, that's what they see. And it's like, so these are church people acting this way? So I don't know. What image is out there? What do we need to do? Us in this room, what can we do? What should we be doing to not look like that? Should we not be asking for money on locking the doors, asking for money, right? We shouldn't be we shouldn't be selling products that aren't good products or whatever, or misleading people as we do business with them. We shouldn't be, you know, um, putting on a show, when we should be worshiping and honoring God. Those are the things we should be doing as true disciples, right? So that when people see us, they don't see that they're seeing a lot of, right? When we tell somebody we're gonna do something, what should we do? Do what we say we're gonna do. And if something comes up, we give them a call and say, "Hey, this happened. I'm sorry about it, but hey, we'll do it tomorrow or whatever." You know, say what you mean what you say, right? And so those people should be seeing us, and they shouldn't think we're different, because everybody should be this way. But when they see us, they should be like, okay, they're different. There's something about them that's different. They live their lives in a different way, right? I mean, that's what discipleship is the way we live our life. Our worship is the way we live our life. All right. If we're not doing that, we're not true disciples. We're not following the teachings. We're not following Christ, because we're not doing what he would do in the manner that he would do it. All right. Like I said, that was the introduction. It's Sunday and today, so we'll dig deeper into this.